What's up, everybody? My name is Morgin Madison, and welcome to my studio kitchen combo studio that's in my kitchen. And today we're going to be doing a little walkthrough, a little track tutorial, just to go through my Ableton project for my new track "Start Again" out on Mousetrap. And I just want to say the inspiration for this track was really like old school progressive house, like 2010 era Cascade, old Dead Mouse, the Move for Me's, the I Remember type tracks. I don't feel like there's enough music like that in the world right now. It really inspires me, so I decided to make a track that was just like really in that genre. So let's dive in a little bit, take a little preview to get a vibe for the track really quick. So right away you can hear the sort of classic eighth note synth plucks. They're super simple, but they're like really lush, and they're side chained really tight to the kick drum. Um, and what's I didn't listen to the plucks combined actually by themselves until after the track was done. But if you isolate them, they actually sound kind of weird. So let's check this out. Yeah, pretty thin. But what really does it is the plucks combined with the bass that has a lot of mid range that gives it this plucky feel here. So once I had that, I knew I had the bones of a track that I really liked because the kick, the bass, and the plucks were sort of giving it that old school vibe from like 2010 era progressive. Um, and I wanted a vocal that worked like really airy on top. Um, so I went and I found some, and they ended up working so well that they stayed to the final version, even though they're royalty free. And I took some from a bunch of different packs. So in the first half of the track, you've got these vocals sort of saying these two different phrases. I think it's "Live On Forever" and "Never Let Go," and the track sort of builds until it gets to this bridge. And in the bridge, this sort of grand cascadey sort of grand piano comes in and really gives the bridge like a lot of life and a lot of beauty, which I love. So the track kind of builds like normal like this. Right here, these vocals come in. So I love that feel. Super simple, just some really beautiful piano chords with a nice vocal on top of it. Um, and I think a lot of progressive music these days is like really, really serious, and just really synth heavy. And I wanted something that evoked a lot of emotion from the original days of when progressive house was still developing, like 2008 to 2010. And one of the things that helps with that, in my opinion, in terms of aesthetic, is having like a really nice grand piano with your vocals. So this one's I think that's with Ableton's in-house, one of Ableton's in-house grand pianos. And then we have all sorts of these other piano effects that come in, like. And so basically, like with any track I produce, I always drown it in way too much reverb and delay and then just sort of EQ my way out of it later. And I think that's why a lot of my tracks sound pretty distinct, is because I definitely do too much of that. Which you'll see, literally every synth in here has like a ton of reverb and delay on it. Let's see what else we got here. All the lush chords. Okay. So a good pad in a break, especially in an old progressive song type like this, I think really makes the tracks because it builds and builds and builds, and it's sort of a lot of those eighth note progressive plucks. They feel like they're building towards something, and it's really nice when you get to the middle of the track when that payoff actually comes through, and you have a midsection that's really kind of like opens up vast. So there's this pad in here. I think it's just... Yeah, and I'm literally just using like a silent preset that's some phaser pad, and then I'm just alternating the cutoff. It just happened to slot in there super well. And this track really came about really fast. The percussion's about what you'd expect. Let's isolate that. Yeah. Something I like to do on a lot of my percussion is there's a in the Ableton Saturator effect rack over here, there's one called A Bit Warmer. I like to put that on like a lot of lead synths and a lot of percussion just to give it like a tiny bit of flavor so they don't sound like too flat. I find between 8 to 10% on the dry wet on that sort of brings those elements out, because percussion and leads are always a little brighter and you want them to have a little more flavor. Let's see what else we can find here. Okay, so it took me a while to get that old sort of like warm, plucky stab of the early genres of progressive house. And the way that it works in this track is the bass interacting with the plucks, the eighth note plucks. And as you can see, the bass has a lot of like mid power, along with this tight side chain here. So let's listen to this isolated. Yeah, you see how deep this side chain is, and it's really tight down here. It's EQ'd to hell over here, and then so another thing while I see it here is the way I like to get a lot of my tracks sounding kind of clean and make sure the frequencies aren't clashing with each other is there's this plugin by Isotope called Neutron. I don't know if you can see it here, but basically this plugin allows you to highlight. Once you stack this on the bass group, for instance, you can stack another instance of this plugin on the kick group, and then there's a feature called masking where you can see what frequency ranges are interrupting the frequency ranges of another instrument. And so it's like basically like a visual EQ. I encourage you to look it up. It's a huge plus when you're mixing at the end and trying to get that last professional touch. Effects are super standard. Effects are just white noise. Yeah. And I believe on this track there's a delayed drop on the second one. Let's listen to this. This is really simple and it gets done a lot. But I feel like it really, really helps out when you're trying to provide, especially in a dance track where it's just a 4/4 kick most of the time, and you're trying to provide a lot of variety to the listener. I like to build tracks up, and then when it gets to the second drop, after you have this sort of atmospheric bridge, the listener's sort of expecting to go back in, but if you prolong it just a little bit more and like tease it, it really helps with the impact of the second chorus, second drop, whatever you want to call it. And in doing that, it's important to sort of subconsciously prepare the listener for like the impact. And in doing that, I like to take down, I'd like to take the track down between 1 and 2 dB before the drop. So if we start down here, then bring it back up. And something I do almost every single time, which is kind of sad, is I auto filter out all of the lows and bring them back in really fast too. When you're listening casually, it's not that much of a difference, but if you play live and all of the lows go away and then you bring them all back in super suddenly, it has a really visceral impact on a large speaker system. So yeah, and it even on a calm song, it has an impact on a crowd for sure. So you can see the auto filter frequency going up here. Right, so let's go through, obviously, besides the vocals and besides some of these leads up here, I think the core of the track, the core of the feeling is carried by the chords. Because eighth note progressive chords are the inspiration of this track, they also carry this track. And let's go through each chord bit by bit here. So as you can see by this EQ down the bottom, this particular chord instance is only covering the mid end, and then of course it's tightly sidechained. But then the other chords occupy very specific frequency ranges as well. Like this one, as you can see, is only doing the high end for more like texture and poke through on the top of the mix. So let's listen to that. Now that's not one you're going to hear. It sounds kind of like awkward and stabby when you listen to it by itself, but it's really important that the role it plays makes things feel full. So let's listen to everything here. Okay, let's keep going. What's this one do? Let's find out. Okay, so this one's literally like the super high stab. Like, look at how high on the EQ this one is. You could barely hear it, but it's providing that initial transient stab through the top of the mix to make the plucks more present. It almost serves like a piece of percussion, like a hi-hat or something, instead of an actual synth, which is cool. But I found that this was crucial in making the plucks stand out. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah. We already went through that. And up here is like a, this is so this is a sidechain signal. A lot of people do this. I'm pretty sure everyone's aware of this, but listen to it by itself. This is actually not coming through the audio. It's a very tight high-end transient to sidechain everything too. So. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, of course, on vocals, I usually take out everything below 100 dB, and I like to be careful because that's still pretty low. And then I'll add an appropriate amount of reverb and delay, just like I do on literally everything, which is sad because it's kind of a cop-out. But, you know, yeah, let's see what else we can find. The masters, pretty much, I like to build these effect racks of like Ableton's glue compressor to take the mix and sort of squash it together just bit by bit, nothing too extreme. And then on the master, I always take out, in Joel's Deadmau5's masterclass, he talks about this specifically, where it's like anything below 20 hertz is generally going to be a lot of rumbling, not on normal, listening headphones speakers for average listeners, but if you're playing like in a club or something, it's going to rumble a lot. most likely. So it's good practice. I like to go down to 18 hertz on the master EQ and cut everything low below that, because I think 20 is a little high. Sometimes I can notice a little difference. Uh, Other than that, on the master chain, usually you want to add a couple decibels of high range here, just to spice up the high end, because it makes it sound louder, perceptively louder to the listener. And then there's a final EQ here that I think is really, really important. At the end of every track that I do on the master track, I'll put a just a rounded EQ, probably like 7 of them, and then make them really narrow like this. And the reason for that is I like to go through and find pokey, sort of nails on a chalkboard, transient frequencies. I'll show you what that sounds like here. Let's see. I don't know if you can hear that, but yeah. Yeah, so that just sounds like crap. So you want to take that and you want to carve it down. Let's see what else. Let's see what else I caught. That one's kind of gross. Let's bring that down. It's alright. And I find this basically after the track is in this state. I'm gonna export the master, and then I'm gonna take it into isotope ozone 7, I believe, and I'm just gonna make it louder with the maximizer and the limiter in there. And so what I want to do in my projects here on the master, just to finish things off, after I've blended all these elements together correctly in the different buses and done all that, I come to the master and brought down these sort of resonant, weird, harsh frequencies on the mostly mid to high end. I'll export this, and literally for me, the mastering process is just making it louder. And something like these finishing touches really helps to prepare a track for mastering like that. So I hope maybe you guys found something useful in here. Maybe you didn't. I hope that was a good run through. That's my track start again. That's sort of some insight into how I make this stuff. And thanks for tuning in. I'll do more of these. So peace out.